Good evening, everyone. I think we all know there's no such thing as a free lunch, but Marco recently taught me that there's also no such thing as a free breakfast. So it's some nice day in spring, and he invites me to his Swiss hotel where he stays when he's in London for a nice breakfast, and makes me talk about what I'm doing these days, and I talk about alpha sites, and to say, we're in the knowledge market, and we kind of connect people seeking knowledge with those having it, and on and on I mumble. And at some point, he gives me that stare that I think only someone who's been 10 years at Lehman Brothers can give you. And he looks in my eyes and says, "Max, is there money in it?" And, I almost dropped off the chair. Wasn't expecting that question, but said, "Yes, there is." And he said, "Good. I want you to come to NOAH and talk about it." So here I find myself 6 months later at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's raining outside. And I'm trying to relay to you the conversation that I was having with Marco 6 months ago over breakfast. However, I'll make it short and easy on you because I know we're all looking forward to the party tonight. And I'll make 3 messages. Number 1, the long tail of knowledge is actually quite exciting. Number 2, it's pretty complex. And number 3, and that's Marco, yes, there is money in it. So first of all, what is the long tail of knowledge? It's essentially for any given problem or theme, if you thought or if you imagine that you rank people by how much they know about the topic, so kind of starting with the very smart ones and ending with the not so smart ones, that's one way of looking at it, or rather with the people who deal with it day by day and are experts at it versus the people who may be peripherally involved with the topic. The theme we're talking about is the people who are peripherally involved with it, and my belief is that there's a lot of value in that knowledge. Let's try a little example here. Who of you, please raise your arm in response to the following question, prior to going on holidays, for example, or going to a restaurant you haven't been to, reads online reviews? 80%, something like that. Who of you is a subscriber to Zagat or buys regularly Condé Nast Traveler magazine? 3 people, 4 people. So the Condé Nast or the Zagat is people, and it's the content that we're all used to from the old days, which is experts trying to make a business out of specializing in a certain area, versus the 80% of you who read online reviews kind of dive into the long tail of knowledge. Why is this exciting? When you think about it, it's the biggest market in the world. There are 7 billion users doing it all the time. It's natural to ask our next of kin for information or for help when we don't know ourselves around in a certain area or topic. In the past, though, we've been limited to people who are either close to us or physically close to us, but now that knowledge, essentially, thanks to the mobile and the web, is available. You can ask, if you knew who has the knowledge you're looking for, you would immediately create a market in that. So it's very exciting that the ability to share knowledge has suddenly exploded exponentially. There's also the notion of collective intelligence or collaborative intelligence, which you may be familiar with the concept of wisdom of crowds, so that the aggregate of people in general know much more than the individual in it, and we just need to solicit that knowledge. You can crowdsource ideas and innovation. Who says that the smartest people and the best ideas reside within the R&D departments of the large companies? Maybe it's out there. There are companies like Incentive around that. And there's a lot of research happening right now around the whole notion whether we as a species couldn't become smarter if we could just leverage the knowledge that's out there, but we just don't have access to it when we need it typically. The complexity arises because we've never really thought of knowledge or peer-to-peer knowledge as an asset. We ask someone for advice in the street, we don't expect to pay that person doesn't expect to be paid for it. Therefore, it's not a concept where people would say, yes, I'm willing to pay for knowledge, I'm willing to reduce my ignorance. You just do it when you do it, but you don't necessarily think of it as an asset class or something that you would engage in a transaction in. Biggest problem is, and that's been a problem in economics for many years now, it's a so-called information good, which suffers from 2 key problems. It's an experience good, meaning I can't assess the value of information or knowledge before I've actually heard about it, I've learned about it, but by the time I've learned the knowledge, I'm no longer willing to pay for it. And the second problem is one of adverse selection, which is a little bit the Marx brother syndrome. Any club that would have me as a member is a club I don't want to join. Or essentially, anyone giving me advice is a person I generally don't trust at first. That problem, asymmetric information, why markets break down, was actually a paper written by George Akerlof, an economist in 1973, and he handed it into 4 economic journals for review and for acceptance, and all of it declined it. 40 years later, he won the Nobel Prize for it because people understood that he was onto something. These two problems, asymmetric information, adverse selection, explain why there's no eBay of expertise. And some of you may remember from the old days, Keynote.com, InfoRocket, hundreds of millions of dollars went into creating horizontal information markets, and they all morphed into psychic advice and XXX sites and all sorts of things, but they broke down basically as marketplaces. Google pulled out. They gave up on Google Answers, and it's very hard to actually turn it into a transactional market. Whenever you try to explain something complex, a 2x2 matrix is probably the best way of attacking the problem. So here is one. The way I think about knowledge is two axes. One is the knowledge just subjective and experience-based, or is it more objective and factual? And the other axis I think is interesting. Is the knowledge standardized and repeatable, and many people would like to have access to that knowledge, or is it incredibly bespoke and unique? And if you're on the left side of that scale, you're more on the traffic-driven, ad-supported business models. If you're more on the right side, you're in the pay-per-use or subscription models and the marketplace models that I'm currently involved in. So some companies you're all familiar with, TripAdvisor, Yelp, Trivago, which was here earlier, Chow, my past company, which I'll talk about in a quick second. If you move up more onto the objective, fact-based space, there's exciting companies like the Stack Exchanges and all their different information services around factual problems like computer advice and these kind of things. Huge traffic and very successful business models. If you move a little bit more towards the bespoke models, there's now these hybrids, which I still have a hard time figuring out the business case for, like Quora or Hightable. And then there's the traditional models in the expert network space, as it's called, which we're currently in as well with alpha sites that I'll talk about. And we're really on the border of kind of making knowledge break free from what I would call are the traditional gatekeepers of that knowledge, the McKinseys and Gartners and Bains of this world, which I think over the years will come under, not pressure necessarily, but who are reconfiguring also how they source knowledge and how they sell their knowledge. So my first company was Chow, which I'll very quickly talk about, and the second one was AlphaSite, so in different ends of the same spectrum. Chow was a typical 1999 top-of-the-bubble.com 1.0 phenomenon. A lot of funding went into it. We collected a lot of online ad reviews, reviews of products, and they were, over the years, ultimately turned into a kind of working business model. So in a typical Amazon style, leave out the vertical axis chart, here's the revenue development of the company over the years. We started in 1999 and for 3 years had essentially no revenues, and then we got onto the vertical curve and a pretty steep curve, and ultimately in 2008 Microsoft came along, which is actually, I noticed, 2 weeks before Lehman went under, so thank you, Marco, for delaying it by those 2 weeks. Otherwise, I think that deal would not have happened. The new company, what I'm currently involved in, born in 2008, so to speak, we're in the B2B space. We're a knowledge broker, essentially. So what that means is we connect professionals seeking specialist knowledge with those possessing it. Core users are very knowledge-intense cross-sector functions such as asset management, hedge funds, private equity. I've noticed, I think, about 20 of the 50 private equity firms here actually are using our service, corporate M&A, but there's more and more applications for that where people just face a problem, need to have knowledge, and turn to providers such as us to get that knowledge by us connecting them to someone, not ourselves, but some third party who has the knowledge. We now have about 100 professionals in London, New York, Hong Kong, nowadays Dubai. And we delivered the first interaction, our first project we delivered in February 2009, and now we're delivering several thousand interactions every month, so it's becoming a more active business, basically. What are the questions around? Just grabbed some recent ones. What are the channel dynamics in the US pet food market? What is the competitive landscape for soft rock mining equipment? Will cheaper Indian cotton cause the price of viscose fiber to soften? So it's very, very specific subjects and questions, but billions and billions are dependent ultimately on the answer and how market dynamics in these very specialized markets change. How will rising costs affect the global fragrance industry? There are people who know that, but if you are an investor in London, New York, or somewhere else, you don't have access to that person typically, and you come to us and we provide you with access to these people. And interestingly, with about 1/10 of the funding that we put into Chow, we launched the company in 2008. And I've kind of tracked the development here until now. We've got about 2 years visibility, so I think we're kind of above the trajectory of Chow at the moment. And then clearly, since I don't have any visibility beyond year 2 from now on, I just assume it goes vertical. Thank you very much.